God, you know. And God's supposed to dwell inside of us, you know. But when man fell, when Adam and Eve deviated from the original path, man fell into total ignorance, in total darkness. And man fell in a world where there is no principle. You know? So then, but God, we believe God is love. You know, the most fundamental part of God is the God of goodness, God of heart, God of love, and also He is the parent of humankind, and He loves mankind. And in the fall, God is the only one that has taken responsibility for men, and has been as a parent, He wants to restore mankind and also restore this world. So He had worked throughout long history, you know, trying to reveal to men what was His original plan. And from the realm of no principle, it took for God like biblical years, 2,400 years before He can reveal something written to men. That was the Ten Commandments through Moses, you know, 400 years after Abraham. And then the Mosaic law and the Old Testament era began. And that's supposed to prepare the chosen people, you know, to lay the foundation for the coming of Messiah. Because of the fall, mankind and God needs a Savior. So Messiah came, Jesus came. And Messiah is supposed to be the one who restores or fulfills the human portion of responsibility that Adam and Eve was not able to do. And He's supposed to reveal to us the way, the truth, completely, and bring us back to life, to the original life. But that Jesus 2,000 years ago was not recognized, was rejected, was persecuted, and eventually was killed, without really revealing everything to mankind. But He promised that the Messiah will come again. So just as the Old Testament promised the coming of Jesus, and the coming of a higher truth, and Jesus came, but He didn't reveal, then the New Testament, as Jesus promised the second coming of the Messiah, the New Testament promised in Jesus' own words that when the Messiah comes, mankind will understand everything clear. No more parables, no more metaphors, no more symbolic language, but plainly of everything. You know, and that's what the principle is. You know, that's what the principle is. The divine principle, you know, it's not like a doctrine. It's not like another religion or anything like that. You know, but divine principle is a divine revelation that all mankind are destined to know, and all mankind are destined to live by this type of principle. In other words, it's a way of life. So we have the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the divine principle stands as the completed Testament era, you know, which will completely unlock, you know, everything that until this time has been a mystery for mankind. I think when mankind realized and recognized that there is God, we try to solve the problems without God, we will never succeed, you know. And also when mankind realized that we are fallen people, you know, that we are not ideal people, and when we realize that and take the course, you know, from falling in the course of restoration and go back to what God originally intended for men to be, to become an ideal person, that's when really the hope for this world will begin. You know.
I can say that I believe that disconnection to God, you know, is really the problem. Is really the problem. And if you're disconnected, if you're disconnected, there is no hope to, you know. I do believe that. I mean, who wants to be disconnected from source energy?
Yes.
I don't necessarily believe that, a structure, though, or this kind of way of doing things is necessarily the way or the only way. You know, I think there are many ways. You know, some people go around saying, "Oh, Jesus is the only way, the only way." Some people say Buddha is the only way, the only way. Muhammad is the only way. You know, and I think all of those principles that they have, these separate religions, you know, I think that they work very well for a lot of people, but I don't think that they will work necessarily for all people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think finding your spirituality individually is kind of the most important thing, because we're all so different, because we all have a different capacity.
Yeah, sure.
It would be very hard for everyone to sort of live like in a utopian society where everyone just follows one thing. That's, you know, how I feel about that. But I do think it is a beautiful structure, and I think that it would help a lot of people. You know what I mean? And I think that there is, you know, more than one way. Something I realized that the structure has, it talks a lot about marriage, you know, and because this is the way God intended, you know. I don't necessarily believe that, you know, there's people such as nuns and monks who don't want to get married, you know. And they're great people, and they're, you know, they don't do anything what would be considered or perceived as bad. And there are also, of course, homosexuals and people of bisexuality who, obviously that's a big issue, you know.
Yes.
And they live their life, you know, these nuns, these people, what would be considered a sort of different lifestyle. They live their life quite happy. Of course, there's those who don't live their life quite happy. I believe that really all what connection to God is just to be smiling, just to be happy, just to be loving towards one another. That's connection to God. I think also that there's an irony of, there's the irony of all the negative things that happen out there.
Yes.
Usually they're people who are of a religious background, that, you know, they you know, grew up with, I don't know, either Christianity or whatever the case may be. I suppose what I study could be considered like New Ageism. I don't know if you've ever heard of that terminology.
Yeah, sure.
I suppose you never hear anything bad or negative happen with, you know, people that are into New Ageism. They're just here learning like everybody else, and mostly they're just want to love each other, you know, the right way, you know.
Yes.
Not you go around having sex with everybody and that, you know, that kind of free love like they did in the '60s. You know, I think there's a different structure for different people depending on what resonates